Welcome to the Rock and Roll Show podcast. We're here to share the thrill of experiencing live music together with strangers and with friends, and to get to know our guests a little bit better through their concert experiences. I'm your host, Alex Gadd, and I find that I relate best to people when talking about music. Finding out what bands someone likes, what shows they've been to allows us to get to know and understand one another better. And also, hey, it's just fun to swap stories about shows we've seen over the years. Today, we have a good one in store for you. We'll be talking with Sam Elkin of C3 Presents. They are a live experiences company that puts on concerts as well as food and wine and other types of events. And full disclosure, Sam's also my stepbrother. Sam, welcome to the Rock and Roll Show podcast.
Thanks, Alex. Good to be here.
Glad to have you. So to start off with, I really am interested in how you got interested in music, because your job today is all about music, and we can talk more about that later. But how did you start? Was music around the house when you were a little kid?
I mean, music was around the house, and we always went to, I can remember going to Tanglewood, which is a beautiful outdoor amphitheater venue in Atlantic, Massachusetts, home of the Boston Pops. A lot of early memories going there. It was just, it was always like, it wasn't a focal point by any means, but definitely music was at least subconsciously part of growing up.
I found that my first musical influences were listening to the car radio when we were driving, and I didn't have a say in what we were listening to. So I was listening to whatever my folks were listening to.
Definitely that. I can remember Noah being my brother, of course, I used to listen to a lot of comedy together growing up, and we still quote those great old albums today. But yeah, music was always like, it was always there.
So do you remember any bands or songs that you latched onto early aside from the comedy stuff? Because I can definitely remember listening to Steve Martin's King Tut like 5 times in a row in a pizzeria on a jukebox, and my folks must have wanted to kill me by the end of it.
The comedy stuff, I got to George Carlin, Father Guido Sarducci. We used to listen to all that stuff. But I have a lot. The one album that always comes up that I felt like we listened to a lot was Jimmy Cliff, The Harder They Come, which I still love that album. I listen to it all the time, but I don't have like super distinct memories of like when I would hear that, but I just have this memory of hearing that on a pretty regular basis. And that's a good one. And then I like to call a little claim to fame, but Sia, which is my mother, of course, tells me that she took me to see Bob Marley when he played the Music Inn, when he did the Babylon by Bus tour, and came through the Music Inn, which is a venue no longer there, but also in Lenox, Massachusetts, which would have been like, I don't know, 70 something.
That's a pretty good one.
I go with that. I feel like I have memories from that. It's hard to remember. Some of that stuff I don't remember things as like way back when, like some people do, but she tells me, so I go with it.
Do you have a first favorite band? Do you remember when you latched onto your first band?
You know what? I don't really. And some of this stuff is like, I can't even remember who played our festivals last year at this point because there's so many. It's pitiful. I know. I don't. I know, like when I got a little bit older and we were starting to collect records, and it was a lot of like Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin and The Who and things along those lines. But I don't like have a memory of like my first band that I really like followed. Although I will say, and this is again the first concert that I can remember like going to that like I actually chose to go to was after this one, but Sean Cassidy, also at Tanglewood, big Hardy Boys fan.
Right on.
And maybe that's the one that I would say that I can't remember ever listening to albums or anything like that, but for some reason I remember going to see him at Tanglewood, 1979.
Yeah, I thought that Sean Cassidy was the key to getting to the girls to like me. So I listened to Sean Cassidy too. I didn't like it that much, but I definitely was like, all the girls in my second grade and third grade classes loved him. And I was like, I would love to have these girls like me a quarter as much as that.
He was still around. He's like a big producer or something like that. I looked it up the other day just to be like, what is that guy doing? And he's still there, just in the, I won't say in the background, but it's good to see. Yeah. The Hardy Boys love that.
Yeah, I was way into it. Him and Parker Stevenson.
Exactly.
So why don't we start by having you tell us a little bit about your job? You work for an events company and you are around concerts for a job. That is your job, is to go to concerts as part of your work, correct?
Yes, mostly it is. I work for a event production company. We do a variety of things. I work on festival side, um, doing partnerships. So that would be like working on the brand side of things, which is a big part of what goes into these festivals. Working in and around music festivals is definitely what I do on a day-to-day basis. I don't go to as many as I used to, but I still go to a handful. We have, I think, 30 in the US this year that we're working on, and I'll go to probably 7 or 8 of those. But yeah, that's why things get a little blurry sometimes because there's a lot of them. I don't take it for granted. I do still very much appreciate what I do and how special it is and what I think is important it is for people and bringing people together. So I like to think I'm not jaded or anything like that. I just, as I've gotten a little older, I don't go to as many, and I go to bed a little earlier, but it is still awesome. And there's still like some of the very like special feelings when your headliner's on and you're walking down to the soundboard and you've got 50,000 people around you. And I've never taken that for granted, and always, and probably forever will still feel very special to be in that spot.
Yeah. Of all the bands you've seen, who do you have a feel for who you've seen the most often?
Uh, Started to think about this. It might still be the Grateful Dead, honestly. It's really hard. I saw a lot of Fish shows in college, but I probably still the Grateful Dead, I would think. Yeah, probably.
I think that's impressive because for all the shows you've seen for work, the Grateful Dead you never saw for work. That was just you wanting to see the Dead.
Yep, exactly. But still, if you think about seeing a band like 40 or 50 times or 30 or 40 or whatever it is over the course of this many years, because I'm not always watching bands at the festival. That's the other thing too, especially as things have progressed, like it is work. And so I'll catch a few shows, but a lot of times, like I'm not necessarily watching them. I make a point to watch the ones I want to watch, or at least bits of the ones I want to watch. But when I'm there, I definitely am focused on working. Sometimes I'll go through a whole festival and sadly won't have really seen that much, but also feel very focused on work when I'm there. And so that's okay.
Oh, I think
I
that's
also,
right. And you got a job to do. It's a job.
yeah, and I just, when I'm there, I'm like, I get so in the groove of working and taking care of the clients and running around and making sure everything's good. And I probably could throttle back a little bit less on things, but I get in that mode when I'm there. And for many years, I did see a lot of the shows too. I just, again, as I've aged a little bit, sometimes when I have downtime now, I just want to see some people or sit down.
Mhm. Yeah, right on. Now, we went to college 1 year apart at University of Vermont in the late '80s, early '90s. It was a thriving music scene. So you mentioned seeing Fish a lot. Those were local bar shows for the most part, or
Yeah.
club shows, correct?
Yeah. 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 They played our dorm. They played the cafeteria at UVM. I remember that. Definitely saw them in the dorm more than once. We used to shoot pool while the band was on the stage 15 feet away.
That was at
That
the
was,
front too. You could
yeah,
play
the
pool
front.
in the
Yeah.
back while they were playing. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Still one of the best bars. I was sad when that went away.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah, honestly, Fish, maybe it might be Fish. I haven't seen it that much in recent years, even though I have so many friends that still go all the time, but I saw a lot back then.
Yeah.
They were our bar band. They were our local band.
Right on. And
It's
now
great.
when I graduated, you were a senior, Blues Traveler started to really
The-
hit. And
Yep.
Burlington felt like Burlington was the second city that they broke. They're from Jersey. They came out and they hit in New York. But it really felt like Burlington was a second home. I was DJing at the radio station and we played an exorbitant amount of Blues Traveler for a brand new band that had one hit. We played them
Yeah.
an awful
Oh,
lot, and they came around. I used to bartend up there, and they would come in after a gig and play pool at the Chance
yeah.
until
Yep.
whatever time. That was a good scene for not only jam band music, but it was definitely felt like the jam band thing, the second generation
it,
after the Dead was happening in Burlington.
it did. It was thriving. There was a lot. There was a lot of that. I felt like there was a lot of reggae too, if I'm not mistaken. But
Oh, you're
but
not?
definitely
Yeah.
there was a lot of that kind of jam band's a loose term. I so non-descriptive in a way, but there was a lot of that. And funny story, Blues Traveler, years later, we used to manage Blues Traveler. So came full circle.
Did
Not
you
me
tell him?
personally, but no, but C3 management at one point managed Blues Traveler. So
They were great.
I
They
mean,
were
they
very
were
down to earth, regular guys.
they were
Some of
big
John,
too. They sold a lot of records too of Four, right? Wasn't that Four? Yeah, they sold a lot of
yeah,
copies of that. Yep,
yeah,
they were big.
great band.
Yeah, they were a great band. Agreed.
Good. Okay. What's the most recent concert that you've seen as a fan, as an attendee, not for work?
Wow.
Was it a
Well,
Pearl Jam show we saw together last
okay.
fall?
Jeez, it might be. No, I went to Vampire Weekend. Vampire Weekend played the Eclipse. The eclipse that just happened here like a month ago. They did a daytime show and stopped like right then and then stopped during the eclipse. That's the last one I went to. That I just went, enjoyed, watched the show. It was awesome. They're a great band and it was super fun. Plus, it was also very cool because it was during the eclipse and while the weather wasn't great and it wasn't super clear, it was really like that was a very unique and special experience. And I had a few friends in for it. And you don't see daytime shows very often like that. That was right here in town at the amphitheater. And that was cool. That was cool. I saw Nickel Creek last night. They did an ACL taping at the ACL TV show. And so I went and stopped by there for a little bit.
That's cool. I was going to
Yeah.
ask because Austin is really one of the greatest music cities in America. Do you take advantage of just going down and seeing what's that?
I mean, there are some clubs down there for sure. No, I don't really. That's sad. I should do, we say all the time that we need to go do more. Um, we don't. I feel like I do plenty. And then when I'm home, I want to just be home. But there's more that we could do more. We still catch like a decent amount of shows. I feel like generally these days it's more like on the bigger shows, like we make through like with you with Pearl Jam, more like the arena shows and some of the bigger like the theater shows or amphitheater. I feel like that's where I'm at these days when I'm home versus going out to a club show on a Tuesday night. It doesn't really happen so much anymore. Which there's plenty I miss. There's lots of stuff. I'm like, oh, I should go to that, and then we don't. I could do a better job.
Like you said,
Mm,
if your work is if you're in baseball and you work for a baseball team, you don't necessarily want to go catch a ball game. You
right.
want to get away from work. I get it. I find that for me nowadays, I go to mostly arena and stadium shows because that's where the bands that I am interested in, the bands have gotten more successful. So they're not playing clubs anymore. So I'm stuck either at the arena stadium level for the bigger bands or the amphitheater level for the legacy bands.
Yeah, and a lot of bands. There's just so many more big shows these days. Lots of stadium shows, lots of arena shows. There's the bands are like certainly have a lot of bands having a moment and playing big rooms. And there's just a lot of action out there. We've got so much music coming through here, through everywhere. There's just a ton of stuff on the road right now. It's great if you're as a fan. There's a lot of good stuff to see out there. But sometimes makes it harder on the festival side, just from a
Mm.
booking standpoint. That's not my job there, but I know that it can be challenging. But the arena we have here, which is fairly new, where you and I went, we get so much stuff through there. Crazy.
That's a great room too. I really like that place.
Yeah.
Great sight
Yeah.
lines, not too big.
Yep. No, it's good size. It's easy. It's right here. We can walk there from our house.
Yeah. I walked back to my
Yeah.
hotel after the Pearl Jam
Yeah,
show. It was
exactly.
easy as
Yeah,
fuck.
sad to die. Yeah, it's great.
Now, for the level of activity that you're seeing, do you think that is still an outcropping of the post-COVID thing where everyone's just trying to book as many dates and play as much as they can because that's where the money's at in music these days? Is that just
I mean,
or
like,
is COVID related to that, or is that just where the music business has gone, is that you make your money out on the road?
I think that's where people are making their money. And then there's also people want to go see shows. There's a lot of appetite for it out there.
Mm.
A lot of stuff that really well. And like I said, we have 30 festivals and and then on top of that, there's just the touring, all the concerts, of all different kinds. So there's a lot of action out there, which like I said, good for fans. I think it is, it's lucrative for bands to be out there.
Yeah. Do you have a memory of your longest concert? Have you because you've seen so many shows and especially Fish and Dead shows can go on for quite a bit. Are those your longest
I
shows? Is there
know.
another show that stands out?
I mean, it's gotta be, although yeah, no one does shows like that, I feel like anymore. Like the set break People do, but not like those days where I just, maybe it's also good. Maybe they do exist and I just don't want to sit through a show that long anymore or can't sit through a show like that anymore. But it's got to be one of those two bands.
Yeah. For me, it was seeing Fish at New Year's Eve multiple times, and all those shows
Oh,
went
yeah.
4 or
Right.
5 hours with the 2
Yeah.
intermissions.
Yeah. That's got to be right for sure. I've
Yeah.
seen some long, like My Morning Jacket shows too, but I don't think anything touches like those hour long saga of Dead or Fish shows.
Yeah, at the time, it seemed fun. Now it doesn't seem like I could hold out. I don't know that I could make it through a whole 5-hour
Mm,
Fish concert.
No, with the set break and all that, I'm sure it could, but yeah, just my like, I don't want to say my patience has changed, but just it's different. But I don't also try. Maybe I would because people still do. Fish is touring. They do set break. Those are actually fun. You get to see people. I always loved all the mayhem and fun stuff you can do during set break. I wouldn't trade those days for anything. I love those. I love those days.
All right. Well, you talked about your one of the most memorable concerts you've seen, but if you had to tell me the best live act you've ever seen, who would that be?
One of my favorite live acts, which is Tom Petty, the Heartbreakers, one of my personal favorites. So I was lucky enough to see him when he did his side project, which is called Mud Crutch. And they played the Troubadour in LA, which is a very small room. This is probably back in 2008, maybe, or 9, something like that. Or no, maybe 7. I can't remember now. But anyway, that was insane. It was amazing. And I'm a huge Tom Petty fan. So that, and also seen some great Radiohead shows. They're one of the best live acts that you can see, in my opinion.
Yeah, Mudcrutch was Tom Petty's first band, right? He and Mike Campbell and Ben
Yeah.
Montench had another
Yep.
band before the Heartbreakers, and they got
Yep.
back together. Break.
Yep. Yeah, they did a couple tours. They had another record, and they played a bunch of Mudcrutch stuff, and then they also played a bunch of Heartbreaker stuff. And yeah, Tom Petty's the greatest.
He was great. There's no question. Yeah, I saw him at the Garden in '95 and just loved it. It was amazing.
Yeah, he's up there for artists that I've seen the most. Not necessarily as much as like the Dead, but I've seen Tom Petty a lot of times, including his last show ever.
Oh, you were there, and was it the
Yeah.
Hollywood Bowl?
At the Hollywood Bowl, yeah.
At least you got to see him the last time.
Yeah. Yeah.
How was that show?
It was good. It wasn't like I remember it was like the end of a tour. He seemed like he was tired. It like wasn't like my memory was like the greatest Heartbreaker show I've ever seen, but those shows never disappointed. Really, like they were always like they always delivered. That band was tight. I don't have a memory of walking away from a Heartbreaker show being like, oh man, that show was not that great, which is pretty rare. I feel like most bands, your favorite band, still like you still like they have a bad night. But
Sure, bands have bad nights. I'm sure the Heartbreakers did too. They just were less prone to it than most.
Yeah, exactly. So still listen to it. Still what I listen to most in my car is Tom Petty.
Yeah, what I always found fascinating was that in Gainesville, Florida, they were able to whip together a band that all became preeminent rock and roll musicians, studio musicians, songwriters, like the whole band was good.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them. And they were all just laying around there for Tom Petty to work with. And the story of how he met Mike Campbell, and Mike Campbell was living some other guy that he was already in a band with, living in his back room and didn't talk and was super shy, and came out and started playing. And Petty was like, oh yeah, that guy, that's the guy I'm going to keep.
Running Down a Dream, the documentary on Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, is, if you haven't seen it, it's a great watch.
Oh, I own it, actually. Yeah, I have the DVDs.
It's
Huge
great.
Fan.
If any listeners have not seen it, I highly recommend it.
Right on. Excellent. Have you ever discovered a band and having never heard of them at a show? Like usually that's an opening act. I've found so many opening acts where I was like, wow, they're much better than I expected.
I know I have, and I still was trying to think about this, and I saw this question, and I'm like, I'm honestly like admittedly the worst at remembering stuff. I know, and I probably will wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh man, why did I say that? Nothing jumps to mind, and that's really sad, but I can't think of anything right now, and I'm going to continue to think about it because I guarantee there is. Nothing's jumping into mind.
I saw Bon Jovi open for the Scorpions in 1984, and I was like, wow, Bon Jovi's good.
Wow. I did see Guns N' Roses open for Aerosmith back in 80, what was that, 88?
Yeah, but you already knew who
That
they
was
were.
exactly. We probably went to see Christmas, but still, that was a great show.
Oh yeah, I bet. Look,
88.
Aerosmith was at the height of their
Yeah,
first
there was,
renaissance.
yeah, that was big though, but Guns was huge back then. That
Big.
was
So
awesome. That
amazing.
was awesome.
Do you have any memories of a guest performer coming out that you were surprised by and pleasantly surprised by?
Yeah, the thing that jumps to mind is in 2000 and gosh, I don't know, maybe 12 or 13. Eminem was one of the headliners, and Rihanna came out with him, which was awesome. That was a huge year for Lala. Eminem was the Friday night headliner. It was a 3-day festival back then. It was Friday night headliner, and it was awesome. That was
That must have
big.
set the place on fire.
Oh, it was huge. It was really fun. Like the only time I've ever seen Rihanna was there.
Do you have a favorite concert venue? You've probably been to more
Mm.
venues than just about anyone I know.
Yeah, it's from an arena standpoint, it can't be Madison Square Garden. It's hard to beat that room.
And everyone's so amped up when they play there that it's
Yeah,
like the Taj Mahal of even
everything's
though
good there. It's like bands play there, they sell it out. It's an anomaly because it's Madison Square Garden. So it's just the greatest. It says it right out there, greatest arena in the world, which it
right,
is. I just
right.
was there last week to see the Knicks, which was also awesome. You know, not a concert, but I love Stubbs here in Austin. It's a great room. Red Rocks is a great room. I used to love the Bowery Ballroom and go and see shows there. The Metro in Chicago is one of the greatest rock clubs in this country or that I've ever been to. Yeah, those are the ones that the Fillmore, San Francisco is always a, special place. Um, yeah, the Auditorium Theater in Chicago too is another beautiful room. There's a lot of good rooms out there.
This is one of the things that I really can rely on you for because I have not expanded my range the way you have by any means.
And there's a ton of new ones. There's all sorts of new ones in New York that are opening up, refurbished old theaters that I haven't been to. And there's a lot of good stuff out there.
Yeah, there is. What's the venue where you've attended the most shows? I wondered if it was Tanglewood or if it was someplace in
It might be
Austin.
Tangled. It might
Yeah.
be Tangled. Stubbs, I've seen a lot of shows with Stubbs even before I lived here. It is tough. I mean, I saw a lot of shows in Tanglewood too. I saw a lot of shows at the Bowery Ballroom too, living in New York. I don't know. That's
Yeah.
a tough one. I might say it might be Stubbs, just because I've been here for 15 years, so I don't know. It might be. I don't know. Oh, I got another most memorable concert. There was a couple. One was this is probably 2014 ish, something like that. During South by Southwest, there was just when brands were coming in and starting to do a lot of like big activations, and started getting a lot of Jay-Z and Kanye be doing stuff, and then one year Samsung was just that was the first year they were doing stuff, and at South by, and Tribe Called Quest opening for Prince was that's a top fiver. It was awesome. Had to 4 in the morning as he does, something like 3 or 4 in the morning. And I mean, Prince is amazing. Tribe Called Quest opening. It was like, I don't think I use the word epic very often, but it was incredible. It was incredible. That, and then whenever I think like the top 5 shows, which of course I can't remember, I'm sure I'm forgetting I'm forgetting all sorts of stuff. But another one is some of it's the environment too. But I'm a huge LCD sound system fan, and they did a show and an after show at Lala in Chicago at the Metro. Actually, Celine's birthday, and it was just one of those just like incredible nights. So those are 3 of my favorite shows of all times.
Thank you. That's great. So you talked about the Tom Petty documentary, which I found fascinating. Do you have a favorite live concert film?
If there's one thing I is hands down, I have an answer for that is The Last Waltz. Best, honestly, like if I could go to any concert ever, that would probably be the concert I would go to.
Yeah.
I'm a huge band fan. Like the band is easily one of my favorite of all time. And that is insane that you could never do that today.
No.
Uh,
You
just
probably could, but it would take so much wrangling.
And a lot of money. Your ticket would be a lot of money. That was like what, like a $5 ticket probably or something like that
Yeah.
on Thanksgiving night in San Francisco. That story is great. Everything about it is great. If you read Bill Graham Presents, the book Bill Graham Presents, where he talks about that that night. It's just incredible. I mean, it's awesome. We probably watched, yeah. Yeah, I probably watched that. I honestly, in Burlington, the EVM, probably watched that 500 times more. We had it on repeat. It's so good. I still
So
watch it. It's
yeah,
so
I
good.
I've watched it multiple times in the last year.
Oh, it's so good.
How about a live album? These are things that probably younger people don't even associate with music, like a concert film or a live album, because they listen to singles and watch videos one by one on the internet. But do you have a live album that meant something more to you than others?
Other than that one, because not only the movie, but that the Last Waltz records
Sure.
or album is also one. It's meant more to me. Trying to think.
For me, I had 2. I had Kiss Alive
Yeah, let's
2.
hear it.
Kiss Alive 2, when I was in my formative music years, that was the record that was like, "Oh my god, this music can be this? It's not just the Beatles and Bob Dylan?" So that was the record that woke me up. And then the Kinks, One for the Road was groundbreaking for me, and I really fell in love with that record, and I still listen to that record regularly.
Love the Kinks. I haven't listened to it lately, but one album that I used to listen to all the time was the Meters live on the Queen Mary, which was this. I'm a huge New Orleans music fan. The Meters in particular are amazing. And that was it was on the Queen Mary in New Orleans, and it was a party thrown by Paul and Linda McCartney. I think it might have been her birthday, if I remember correctly. It's incredible. That's the first one that comes to mind.
I'm
But
looking for recommendations.
yeah,
I'll go find it.
yeah, that's a great one. If you find it, I'd like to find that on vinyl. You listen to vinyl a lot?
I don't even have a record player anymore.
You don't.
I have 2 big, boxes of LPs, and I just hold them thinking one day I'll get another record player.
I love it. I'm part of a record club called Vinyl Me Please, and I go in phases. It's so much easier, obviously, these days with any kind of streaming music. But it's fun to put on put on the albums, and I like having them. And there's some fun stuff that you can get on album, and it's fun when you're entertaining people. It's so much. It's amazing how much you have to switch them over. You have to pay attention if you're cooking. It's not the easiest thing to do, but it is a great sound. And I'm not like a crazy audiophile who needs to have like certain speakers, and my ear isn't like that crazy like that. But I love listening to records.
Yeah, I think there's also just an interest level. If you're entertaining and you put on an LP, that just doesn't happen every day. So it's cool.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
And the
no, it's
sound is
fun. It
great.
really is. I know. I need to do it more.
Do
When you're
that.
when you're ready to get rid of your records, you let me know. Come take a look at them.
I'll get them to you.
Yeah.
Are there any stories you can share with us about musicians that you've hung with backstage? Anything interesting, fun, nice musician that you can share?
Um, I've become friendly with certainly a number of bands over the years. There's definitely lots of stories of that, not necessarily hanging with people backstage, but like interactions with people backstage. Obviously, you see a lot of it. I'm trying to think of anything fun. And like we opened the Cosmopolitan Hotel in Las Vegas. We booked that, and we threw this opening night party on New Year's Eve, and that was great. People watching at that event, and Jay-Z and Coldplay played, and Celine and I went back after Coldplay. We went back to go to the bathroom. We were backstage, and Celine's a huge Jay-Z fan, and all of a sudden they like made everybody stop, and we're just standing there, and then like he rolls up, and it's like Tom Ford tux, and it's New Year's Eve to go on stage, and he basically just walks like right between us, and this is a long time ago. And it was just like one of those, it was just, and then rolls Beyonce down, rolls down. And at that point, Kanye and all these other people. And it was just like one of those awesome moments. We're all dressed up New Year's Eve. And it was a good one.
Just thinking about your bucket list, are there any venues left that you haven't been to that you really are like, before I die, I want to go to this place?
Yeah. I've never been to the Ryman. It's hard to believe. And considering I definitely spent time in Nashville, and I love that town. I have not been there. That's the one that comes to mind that I need to see, or I want to see. We had our eyes on the show at the Ryman. We were going to go see John Batiste, and then we just didn't this year. We just didn't. I'll make it there sometime soon.
And then if you could see anyone perform, you said the band is probably that show, the Last Waltz show in San Francisco. would be your choice. Any others that you really just
Uh,
wish you had seen?
I mean, the band at their peak is for sure that band for me. I'm sure I saw them like some incarnation of it somewhere down the road later on, and probably in Burlington. But yeah, they are, you know, they're the top or the heap for me.
Yeah, I saw in Burlington at the chapel, I saw Yorma and Rick Danko and Jonathan Edwards play 3 sets in a
Oh
row.
wow.
And that was the Rick Danko set was it felt great. It was, wow, this is like seeing the 5 Rick Danko songs that I love from the band.
Yeah. But I love him so much. He's great. There's lots of stuff. Honestly, I mentioned the Bob Marley earlier, but I would love to see Bob Marley an adult, if you will.
Right. So you
Um,
could remember it.
exactly. The list goes on. I could keep going. I could go on and on. There's so many people I would love to have seen, but yeah, I'd put the band up.
Okay. Just looking forward now, do you have any tickets to upcoming shows that you're going to as a fan?
I'm going to a couple of Pearl Jam shows. I've never, actually, here's another bucket list. I've yet to see a show at Fenway Park and specifically Pearl Jam. I've missed Petty when he played there, and I'm sad that I did. But Pearl Jam's playing there this year, so they're doing a bunch of stadiums, baseball stadiums. So
Right.
we're gonna catch one at Wrigley and then a Fenway. I'm excited about those. Do I think tickets to anything else? Nothing I can think of. Sometimes I make the decisions a little more last minute to go to some of the stuff.
Yeah, and then finally,
Fortunately.
what question didn't I ask you that, I should have asked? Is there any story that is out there for you to tell that you're able to tell a public forum?
I mean, listen, I think I've seen like I love festivals for the fact that you can just see so much different stuff and you can learn, just like you said, you can discover so much music, which is why I'm to this day, I always loved working on festivals. I did it before I even worked at this company. I got my start working at festivals, and I think there's such a great special place to see and experience people and music. And I was recently talking about the Telluride Bluegrass actually last night with a good friend about that's where I was the first festival I worked on in 1991 or something like that. And he said, "You should come out this year." And so I haven't been in many years. And so going back to some of those roots festivals is something that I find, if not this year, I need to do soon. But there's there's a lot of great stuff out there. It really is. I encourage people to go out and check stuff out. I encourage you to go check stuff out. Come visit. Come to one of our festivals sometime. They're a lot of fun.
I will take you up on it.
Please do. I don't have as much fun as I used to. I'm past my heyday of really having a good time, but it's a great environment. And I'm fortunate to be able to do it.
Yeah, my intent at going to see shows now is to see the show. Those shenanigans that I used to get into, I just don't that's not I'm too old for that. Not that other people shouldn't do it. Go for it.
No,
Have
I'm
your
all for
shenanigans.
shenanigans.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm all
right on.
for it. I love
Just
shenanigans.
not. All right, Sam, thank you so much. We've had as our guest today Sam Elkin, and that's it for today's conversation. We'll be back next Tuesday, and if you like what you heard today, we'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe or follow and make sure you get notified about every new episode. And please tell your friends. Additionally, we want to know what you think. Please leave us a comment and we'll try to respond to every one of them. The Rock and Roll Show podcast is a World Highway Media production. I'm your host, Alex Gadd. And until next time, remember that life is short, so get those concert tickets.